Okay, everybody, thank you for coming for my presentation. My name's Stanley. I'm the founder and CEO of Anicca Digital. I did do this presentation yesterday, and it's great to have an opportunity to do for the second day of the event. I've been in digital marketing for 21 years. I had a career before then, but I'm not going to tell you exactly how old I am, but I have got grandkids, so I'm on the other end of my career. But I'm still a total geek, and I love the new technology, and I'm going to be very happy to tell you some of the things that you need to know today. Anicca's been around for 16 years, and we're what's called a full digital marketing agency. We work with some great clients. We're actually based in Leicester, and we've got a stand just around the corner. Now, I was giving away these yesterday, but unfortunately we gave around 400 away. So I got a barcode for you. It's called Integrate, which you'll be able to scan at the end and download an e-version. But the content of this is what I'm going to talk about today, and I will be getting the slides to you later as well. Okay, so let's go. So first of all, why do we need an integrated strategy for your marketing? So this is the acronym that we use called POETIC, and it really explains all the different channels that is involved in digital marketing. So paid, owned and earned has been around for years, but technical insights and creative are also key parts of your strategy. But if you look at most organizations and most agencies, they tend to work in silos. So you tend to become a specialist in one area and never talk to the other departments or the other teams. We broke those barriers down, but lots of people still work like this. And it does mean that it's not very efficient when you're trying to do your digital marketing. Another reason why you need to consider an integrated strategy is the fact that at all the different points within the sales funnel, your customers are going to be wanting to see different things and do different things as they become aware of you and then get ready to convert. And fortunately, Meta, Facebook, and quite a lot of the other paid social platforms allow you to do campaigns that target specific parts of that funnel. But we've got to remember that when people come to find a service or a business, they don't necessarily do that all online. Some of it might be offline, and they're probably going to come backwards and forwards to lots of sites many times before they actually find who they want to buy from, and even go back many times before they come to you and actually decide to buy. So we need to be aware of all those different points in that journey. Another thing I really want to almost scare you into thinking about is that so much has changed in the last 12 months. I've been in digital marketing for 20 years, and I've seen more change in the last year than any other time in my career. And I'm not talking about the economy, I'm talking about the technology. So first of all, GA4 replaced Universal Analytics, or GA3 as we often call it. How many in the room likes GA4? Nobody. Okay, that doesn't surprise me at all, because it's the horriblest thing in the world to use. And we are using Looker Studio or Data Studio in order to get past some of its limitations. And actually I did a presentation on that yesterday, so if any of you are interested, if you email me afterwards, I can send you and direct you to a webinar on how to set up your GA4 correctly. There's all the changes to cookies and privacy policies. So this really started a few years ago with iOS 14, where Apple made everybody resubscribe and say, yes, I'm happy to receive, share my data. And suddenly overnight, nobody did it. And Facebook at the time, all of their conversion data just disappeared overnight. And what that meant was that the types of campaigns that you were running previously to get people over to your website to convert, suddenly all the data disappeared and they didn't work anymore. So a lot of the problems with that is that basically people have abandoned that type of campaign, which means there's an open goal if you can solve that problem. Google has been threatening to remove cookies or change the way we track for 3 or 4 years now, and they keep pushing it back, but that's meant to happen next year. And a bit like GA4, we were talking about GA4 18 months ago, you really need to be thinking about things like server-side tracking, which will overcome some of these problems. You need to be thinking about that now, not 2 weeks before it happens. You can't go to a marketing conference without somebody mentioning ChatGPT and AI. That hit us November last year. This book, you would have taken me a month to write, but with the help of ChatGPT over Christmas, it took me a week to write and then 6 months to design and edit. So ChatGPT did a great job at helping me at one end of the spectrum, but it still takes a while to produce something like this. So that's going to have a big effect on all of us. And the other thing that's been happening quietly in the background that most of you won't be aware of is, how many of you do Google Ads? We do loads of Google Ads, so quite a few of you. They've been automating everything in the background. So if you're doing, especially if you're an e-commerce site, you will all probably heard of Performance Max, which is their everything ad. It's all black box AI, and it can be a complete nightmare or it can be amazing. And that a lot of that automation can make things quite difficult. But it also means the way that they're operating and the bidding and the use of key phrases is all changing. So we just need to be thinking about, well, if Google's going to do that for us, or the paid social platforms are going to do that for us, what are we going to do? What are we going to do differently to get a USP and be better than everybody else that's doing the same thing? So integration is the solution. And I've got 5 strategies for you today. So the first is strategic themes. The next is consistent content, that's both design and copy. You've got the insights from one channel which can help you with another, and I'm going to focus on search for that one, PPC and SEO. Then you've got sequential campaigns and remarketing. And then you've got data and automation. So that's what we're going to cover today. So my first is strategic themes. Now, when people do marketing, they tend to think of the channel first because there's usually somebody responsible for social, or there's somebody responsible for PPC or SEO. And I want to flip that round. And if you take SOSTAC as a sort of basic model of planning, which is situation analysis, and then you've got objectives and strategy, tactics, etc. I've muddled around with that. And what I've done is I've introduced the concept of strategic themes. So when we get a new client, we do a really extensive audit, and then we come up with, well, what is it you want to achieve? So the sorts of things I'm talking about is, well, is it new customer acquisition? Is it brand awareness? Is it, do I need to increase my conversion rate on my website? What is it I need to do? And instead of just thinking about the channel, I think about the objective first. I can't do all of this all at once, by the way, so I do have to tend to prioritize. And then I take the poetic and then I flip it round, so you end up with like a card. If you get the book, you'll get all of these as well, but the graphics have all come from the book. But what you then do is you can lay them all out in one slide and say, this is what we need to do, guys. And then if you're an agency, you can say, well, what are you doing in-house? Oh, well, we're doing organic social. We don't want you to do that. And then you can split it up and work out exactly what you're going to do. And then, of course, once you've got that, you have to convert it into some form of marketing Gantt chart plan, and with all your budgets and everything else associated it. So strategic cards is really strategic solutions. What's the solution? And then work out the channels that you need to get to your end point. So it's flicking it round, and that way you're forcing your teams to work together and making sure that the channels and strategies that you use, techniques that you use, actually are all going for the same objective. Because it's completely useless if you've got a strategy around brand awareness and only you're doing one thing in one channel and then something else in another. You need to make sure that the content and everything works across all of them. The next strategy is consistent and effective content, and I'm going to start off with a design one. So this is a typical thing you might see in Facebook, and one of the things we find when we audit people's Facebook is they very, very rarely put their brand in on their ads. And the problem with that is this is now, I'm going to tell you who it is in a minute, but if I think of kitchens and sinks, I might think of Wix, might think of B&Q, but I'm not thinking of Screwfix, because I don't think they sell kitchens. But actually, they're not selling kitchens at all. What they're actually selling is this super duper £2,000 tap. You don't have to like the hot rod graphics, but the point is you can immediately see that we're actually selling the tap, not the sink, not the kitchen. It's by Screwfix, it's been trade rated, And just by adding that extra information, by framing your original photograph, when somebody's going through Facebook or whatever platform they see this ad, they're going to know it's Screwfix, and they're going to know exactly what you're selling, and they're not going to be thinking of Wix, and they're not going to be thinking of B&Q, even though B&Q and Screwfix are owned by the same company. But so this is the idea of personalizing and branding your content. And even if you're doing dynamic shopping ads in Facebook, you can create a frame, and you can do that with that as well. Another thing you've got to be thinking about is the content that you write. A lot of people spend huge amounts of time writing content for social media and thinking that's going to drive loads of traffic to their site. Well, first of all, when people are in social media, they do not want to leave, so they do not want to go over to your website. And in fact, social traffic is usually less than 5% unless you're spending a lot of money on ads. And if you are writing great search content, great blogs, they're not going to find you for a while until the SEO develops. And if you want to distribute it, or it's time sensitive, then why not use social and PR to distribute it? So the advantage of integrating your content across these multiple channels is that you get one really good piece of content, such as something like this Integrate book, and then you can use it in multiple ways and actually distribute it across multiple channels. But the advantage of that is that because search engine content sticks around for a while, in a few months' time, and you do a search, you're found for it, then that is there, it's evergreen, it's there for a while, whereas social media content is gone, you don't see it again. But the links that you get from digital PR and the traffic that you get from social will help boost your SEO and will help you actually get more traffic in the first place. So you're getting a synergistic effect of all three of them by just producing really good content and using these other channels. Obviously with PR you have to write it in a slightly different way. So we talk about the concept of shattering content. So you create a really good article or good white paper or a guide, and then you probably reproduce it in lots of different ways. So you might have an event like this where I'm talking about it, or I might have done a webinar, or I've got a blog, or I've got a video on it. And then I can distribute it a whole load of channels. So from one good piece of content where you've invested the time, it's great quality, you've then got all these ways of getting it out there, and it's all integrated. So that's what we mean by a sort of a consistent and write it once and use it many times in shattering content. So my next strategy is using the insights from one channel to inform another. And I'm going to specifically focus on how we can use Google Ads. There's quite a few of you in the room doing Google Ads, but I bet you there's a lot of you doing SEO, okay? So if you think of the way that Google Ads have evolved over the last few years, originally we just went out and got loads of key phrases and we'd create text ads. That evolved to the point where you could do things like shopping ads, and now Performance Max for shopping, where you use a product feed. So the website content drives the product feed, which drives the ads. So you don't have to go and find key phrases. And also dynamic search ads. This is like paid SEO. That's the easiest way of describing it. It's great for huge database sites where there's lots of content, but it's not shopping. So this might be a recruitment site or a property site, something like that. So loads and loads of content, which would take you absolutely ages to go and find all the key phrases for. Well, you can say, hey, why don't I go to the properties in London section, and then you can create ads from there dynamically, and it inserts the title and things from the page onto there. The final way of setting up ads in Google is through things like audiences and other indicators like remarketing, and that works well with display in YouTube, but also Performance Max. Performance Max is Google's way of getting you to spend money on the channels you normally wouldn't, because you then appear in display and video and everywhere else. Please don't take my cynicism of Performance Max too much to heart, because actually some of our best campaigns of Performance Max, it's just if you don't know what you're doing, you can waste a lot of money quite easily. So you really need to understand Performance Max. Otherwise, it's a black hole for your budget to go into. But what we see here is we've now got to a situation where only one type of campaign you actually find key phrases. Everything else is relying fundamentally, particularly the middle one, on the content of your website. And so what we're really saying is, although you don't have to bid on key phrases, what you will get from Google is what we call the search term analysis. It's pretty rubbish with Performance Max, but the others are really good. And so you know exactly what people have searched on. So that means you can add negative key phrases. You can also optimize your current campaigns. But more importantly, you can use that data elsewhere. So in this nice diagram, what I've done is I've basically taken my search term data from shopping ads and search ads and DSAs, and I can actually feed that in for search ads, but I can also use it for my SEO. Now, the reason that's important is that for two things. First of all, when you do SEO, particularly if you're a newish site, it's going to take months for that SEO to work, and you're basically gambling on the key phrases that you want to try, but you've no idea whether they're going to convert or not. Well, if you use PPC first of all, you're making money immediately, but secondly, you find the key phrases that actually convert, and then you can use that for your SEO. But the other advantage of that is that if you improve your content on your SEO, on your actual website, that will improve your DSA ads, it will improve your feed, and so basically you get that sort of synergistic effect that as you improve your page, it also improves what you're doing with your paid as well. I've added down the bottom Amazon and Pinterest. Amazon and Pinterest shopping ads now are growing very, very rapidly. You can do ads in Amazon without actually selling on Amazon, but most of the time it's for a product that you sell on Amazon because you get great conversion rates there. But if you are doing shopping ads, for example, then you can use that data to actually determine what you're going to bid on in your Amazon ads as well. So your PPC data is really useful if you're going to use that over in Amazon. Where I'm going with this is the fact that if you no longer have the opportunity to bid on key phrases, what I think was going to happen is that the website and the product feed will be the main driver of Google actually determining where you get shown. I think Google's going in the direction where eventually all you'll do is you'll provide the URL, maybe a few indications of the type of audience or the objectives, and it will just do the work for you. Now that's quite scary because I know that from having done Google ads for over 16 years, in fact it's more like 20 years, or PPC ads for that long, I know that they can spend your money sometimes where you don't want them to. So it's going to be really important going forward that the website is really well optimized for what you want it to be found for, because that's not only going to be useful for SEO, it's also going to drive your PPC as well. So I think what's going to happen is that there's going to be a shift towards the SEO and PPC teams actually having to work together, because as this automation carries on, keywords are going to be redundant, and we're going to get to a point where SEO and PPC teams have just got to use the same tools, the same tactics, and if they're currently not working together, you need to get them to start looking at, working together as a team. Okay. My next tactic is remarketing and sequential campaigns. Now, as Google makes it a level playing field where everybody runs to the bottom, and you really either are going to do something the same as everybody else, what you're going to have to do is start doing really complicated or sophisticated remarketing strategies. Use your own first-party data to create audiences, feed that back in enhanced conversions, and also through, I'll talk about this in a minute with Facebook, but giving that information back to know the ideal clients. So when you look at remarketing strategies, they really break down into two types. First of all, trying to get sales in the first place. So one of the most effective ways is a technique where you basically use video views as your primary filter. Now, video views are really cheap, probably a penny in Facebook, a penny in YouTube, which you can link through to your Google ads. But if you're targeting B2B, you need to look at LinkedIn, because it might only be 10 to 50 pence a video view compared with something like £6 a click. So by having somebody watch your video, if they engage with video and watch it, then they're a warm audience. So why don't you remarket to them with a conversion ad, and you're going to get a much better success, but you're not spending as much money because it's a smaller, warmer audience. You've got your traditional website remarketing. So if we all went onto John Lewis, went and looked at a pair of jeans, everywhere we went for the rest of the day, we'd be stalked around the internet with pictures of jeans from John Lewis. And you've also got retention type strategies as well. I won't go through all of these individually. So an example would be if you've got a mobile phone or an insurance contract, at the end of the year you've got 10,000 people whose contract's about to end. Well, what you can do is you can create a custom audience from your CRM system, download them, and then what you would do then is make a custom list, and then from there you can actually target those people in Facebook. So they'll get an email from you, they might, they'll see an ad of you, you might get a phone call saying, please sign up again for your insurance. But it's going to increase that conversion rate because they become aware of you in a different channel. This is an example of what it looks like with website remarketing, and then these are 3 different types of sequential campaigns. So the first one is where the same audience see both messages. The second one is where they see one message like that video, then you create an audience and they see another message in the same platform. And then the third one would be where perhaps you did an ad in Facebook for people interested in garden furniture. They came across to your website, they downloaded that guide, and then when they actually went to search, you would be bidding on them at a higher rate because they're a warm audience. We call that remarketing ads for search, RLSAs. And that's really effective because you know that they're going to be more likely to convert with you because they've already been to your site. Another thing you can do is create these custom audiences, and I'll just bring it up because I'm a bit short of time. And basically, when you do remarketing with a custom audience, what you're trying to do is use your own data. So all the people that come to see all of you guys, I could put into a list. So if you suddenly see adverts from Anicca in Facebook, you'll know, oh, Anne's remarketed to me because I've added your email address into Facebook. But it could be your current customers, or it could be people that you've already worked with in the past. And then they'll come back to your site and they're more likely to convert. But the other thing about custom audiences and any audiences you create in these platforms is you can also create lookalikes, which means that the platforms will try and find more people similar to your ideal audience. Now, just to let you know, Google stopped allowing you to do this in the last month. So you can still do this in Facebook and some of the other platforms, but you can't do it in Google anymore. The concepts of honeypots, this is the cross-channel. This is the idea of you go over to your site, you get a great guide, and then you would then be remarketed to because you've downloaded something. And we often do that with 2 channels, so you then be remarketed to in, say, search. Okay, I'm now very short time. So the 5th strategy is investing in data integration, tracking, and automation. So this diagram just shows some of those data flows. And obviously, it's not just the ad platforms, it's what's in your website, it's offline as well, it's what's in your CRM system. So what I want to talk to you about, first of all, is the concept of server-side tracking and the conversion API. So has anybody heard of CAPI, conversion API? Okay, 2 people in the room. How many of you are doing Facebook ads? About 1/3 of you. You need to do this now. It's really important. So what we do at the moment is we use browser-side tracking, and that's what iOS 14 killed off. So what we do is we replace that with server-side tracking. I'll just bring it up for you guys so you can take a photograph. So what this means is that the server provides the data on conversions, and then we have to inject those conversions through the conversion API of Meta, TikTok, Pinterest. And then suddenly they can see 100%, well 99% of all the conversions again, and suddenly their algorithm works brilliantly. Now most people are not doing this. There's some simple plugins to do it. Originally when we started doing this, it used to cost us $2.5 grand to set it up. It's now more like 500 quid to set it up. And it's much, much cheaper to set it up than it was. But you've got to remember, cookies are going to go next year and you're going to need to find a replacement. As a result of this, we won 4 awards at the Paid Search Awards, and we're hoping to win some more tonight because we're up for another 3. So unfortunately, I can't go, which is really bad, which means we'll probably win because I won't be there. But this was for the work we did with Books to Door, where we had a hockey stick growth. A lot of those sales also showed indirect in Google Analytics, because sometimes Google Analytics thinks social traffic is actually, they can't tell the difference, and they stick it indirect. Another thing you need to know about. So, final slides before I get into trouble. So key takeaways again then. So basically, I'll bring it all up. So basically, strategic themes is a great way of being solution focused. Audience journeys are very complicated, so you need to focus on content, being consistent, data insight. We need to look at automation in paid search and integrating your PPC and your SEO strategies. We need to do sequential and remarketing strategies, and don't leave server-side tracking until 5 minutes before cookies go, which everybody did with GA4. You need to fix it now. If any of you are based in the Midlands, we've got a conference on Tuesday next week. It's only 75 quid. All proceeds to go to charity. If you come over to the stand, we're stand A50, we can give you a bit more detail. And if you want my book, this is the one you really need to take a photograph of. Hopefully you can scan that and it will lead you, because unfortunately there's none left. Thank you. Thank you.